Change. It's everywhere, isn't it? In your job, your life, just always happening, often when you least expect it.
Absolutely. And how you deal with it, well, that can make a huge difference. Our source for this deep dive today, it's actually a very simple story, but surprisingly powerful for thinking about change.
Yeah, it's this short parable, Who Moved My Cheese?
Mm.
It's tiny, but don't let that fool you. It's really packed with insights about how we react when, the ground shifts beneath us.
Exactly. The source itself says it offers unique insights that can last for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to really unpack this thing, look at the characters, the lessons, what they learn, or maybe what they don't learn.
And figure out why this little story seems to hit home for so many people who are, facing big shifts in their own lives.
Let's get into it. So the story is set in this place called the Maze.
Right, the maze. And you can think of that as, well, basically anywhere you look for what you want. Your
Yeah.
job, your community, relationships, that kind of environment.
And the thing you're searching for in the maze, that's called cheese.
Cheese, which is really just a metaphor, right? For whatever you want that makes you happy. It could be the job, could be money, health, peace of mind.
Anything that, nourishes you. And in this maze, looking for their cheese, we've got 4 main characters.
Okay, so first up are 2 mice, Sniff and Scurry.
Right. And they're described as having simple brains and good instincts. This sort of represent the basic, straightforward part of us, the part that senses things and just acts.
And then you have the other pair, 2 little people, Hem and Haw.
Yeah, they're mouse-sized but act like people. The source says they have complex brains filled with many beliefs and emotions. So they represent us, the thinking, analyzing, sometimes overthinking parts, the feelings, the beliefs we get tangled up in.
But all 4 of them, mice or little people, they share the same basic need, right? To find their way, find that cheese, especially when things are changing.
Exactly. And the story kicks off when they all find success. They discover this huge stash of cheese at a place called Cheese Station C.
Jackpot. So life is good at Station C, but they handle this success very differently.
That's where you really start to see their natures diverge. Sniff and Scurry, the mice, they pretty much stick to their routine.
How so?
They still get up early, race through the maze the same way every morning. But here's the key bit. They check the station every day for changes. Notice what's going on.
And they keep their running shoes handy.
Always. Tied together around their necks, ready to go. Then they settle in and enjoy the cheese. Very practical.
Okay, contrast that with Hem and Haw.
Him and all. They gradually get comfortable. Very comfortable. They start sleeping in, taking their time, getting to Station C. They just assume the cheese will always be there.
It becomes their cheese.
Totally. They start feeling entitled to it. They even move their homes closer, build a whole social scene around Station C.
Decorating the walls with pictures of cheese, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Putting up sayings about cheese. The source calls it the arrogance of success. They got so comfortable, so sure of things, they just stopped paying attention, didn't notice what was happening.
Until one day.
Until one morning, Sniff and Scurry show up, bright and early, and boom, no cheese. Station C is empty.
But you said they weren't surprised.
Not really. Because they'd been doing those daily checks. They'd noticed the supply getting smaller. Their instincts were telling them, hey, something's up. They were prepared.
So what do?
It's immediate. Simple. They look at each other, whip on those running
The
shoes.
ones around their necks.
Those very ones. And they just take off. Back into the maze, searching for new cheese. No hand-wringing, no deep analysis. The source says they did not overanalyze things.
Yeah.
Just action.
Okay, now Hem and Haw arrive later.
Completely unprepared. They stroll in, expecting their usual bounty, and find nothing.
And their reaction is different.
Oh, massively different. Shock, disbelief, anger. Him starts yelling, what? No cheese? Who moved my cheese? Screaming about how unfair it is.
And Haw.
Haw's just frozen, shaking his head. He can't believe it, trying to tune it out because the reality is too much.
Because finding that cheese, for them, it wasn't just food. It was tied up with everything they thought made them happy, right? Security, success, all that.
Absolutely. Which is why they get stuck. Because it's so important. And because they're complex thinkers, they just analyze and worry and complain. While Sniff and Scurry are already out there running, Hem and Haw are still at the empty station, basically just hemming and hawing.
Just stuck. Though Haw does manage one small action.
Right. He eventually scrawls on the wall just 3 words. The cheese has been moved. Acknowledging reality, but still not moving.
So they actually come back the next day.
They do. Still hoping maybe it was a mistake, maybe the cheese will magically reappear. They're caught in this loop.
Rationalizing, blaming.
Totally. Hem's like, why me? Why did they do this? Feeling like a victim entitled to that cheese he has passed.
Oh.
Almost to block it out, convincing himself the change must have been sudden, not gradual.
And they probably think the mice are just, well, simpletons.
Oh, yeah. Hem basically scoffs at the idea the mice could figure anything out.
Yeah.
We're smarter, he thinks. We need a complex plan.
So instead of leaving, they try other things.
Everything but leaving. Denial. Trying to work harder at the empty station. Staying later. They even try, like drilling a hole in the wall thinking maybe the cheese is hidden. Just waiting for the past to come back.
Which must take a toll.
Immense. They get weaker, stressed out, can't sleep well, become irritable. Even their homes don't feel right anymore. Haas starts to realize, there's a difference between activity banging on a wall and actual productivity.
And that's a turning point for Ha.
It seems to be. He has this moment where he actually laughs at himself, at the situation. He says something like, ha ha, look at us, doing the same thing over and over, wondering why nothing changes.
That self-awareness, the humor, that's key.
It really is. He still doesn't like the idea of going back into the maze. It's scary. He knows he'll get lost, probably fail. But laughing at his own fear helps him see how it's trapping him.
So he decides to go.
He does. He turns to him, asks for his running shoes back, and basically says, look, it's not coming back. Yesterday's cheese is gone. It's time to find new cheese.
And Hem's reaction, still fear.
Pure fear. But what if there's nothing out there? What if you don't find it? All the anxieties of the unknown pour out.
But Ha pushes through that.
He feels the fear too, but then he asks himself that crucial question, where am I more likely to find cheese? Here or out there? And he starts using his imagination differently. Instead of imagining failure, he pictures himself finding new cheese.
Visualizing success.
Exactly. And that positive picture starts to feel more compelling than staying put. He tries to explain it to him, saying, sometimes things just change, Hem. Life moves on. We should too.
And he leaves them a message.
Before he goes, yeah, pretty stark one on the wall. If you do not change, you can become extinct. Then as he steps into the maze, he writes another for himself, a guiding question. What would you do if you weren't afraid?
So Ha's journey begins. And it's tough at first.
Really tough. He's weak, hungry. It's painful, slow going. He gets lost. Feels like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes.
But it's better than staying put.
He realizes that pretty quickly. Yeah, it's hard, but at least he's doing something. Taking control. He thinks, hey, if Sniff and Scurry can do it, maybe I can too.
And he starts reflecting on how things changed.
Big time. He sees now the cheese didn't just vanish. It had been dwindling. Maybe tasted different near the end. He could have seen it coming if he'd been paying attention, anticipating change, not just enjoying the comfort zone.
Which leads to a new resolve.
Yes. He decides, okay, from now on, I need to be more alert, watch for changes, trust my instincts more. And he stops and writes that lesson down. Smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old.
That's such a great, simple image. Just check in, assess.
Exactly. Don't wait until the station's totally empty.
Yeah.
So he keeps going, finds more empty corridors.
Yeah.
Fear starts to bubble up again. Maybe Hem was right.
But he uses his question.
He does. What would I do if I weren't afraid? And he realizes a lot of that fear was just manufactured in his head. It was making things seem worse than they were. Action, even small steps, is the antidote. So he writes, movement in a new direction helps you find new cheese.
And something shifts for him then.
Yeah, it's interesting. As he keeps moving, letting go of the fear bit by bit, he actually starts to enjoy the journey, finds a sense of freedom in just moving forward, trusting the process.
He feels liberated.
Right. Which leads to another insight he writes down. When you move beyond your fear, you feel free.
And he keeps using that visualization technique.
He does. He paints these really vivid mental pictures of finding all sorts of wonderful new cheese, tasting it, enjoying it, makes the goal feel real, tangible, pulls him forward. He writes, imagining myself enjoying new cheese before I find it leads me to it.
He starts to see change not as a threat, but maybe an opportunity.
Exactly. Maybe change leads to something better. With that mindset, he gets more energy, moves faster. He finds a few small pieces of new cheese delicious. But the station is empty. It reinforces the idea that he waited too long.
Ah, so another lesson learned.
Yep. The faster you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. Don't cling to what's gone.
Does he think about going back for him?
Briefly. He even finds him and offers him the small bits of new cheese he found. But Hem refuses. Says something like, I don't think I'd like new cheese. It's not what I'm used to.
Wow. Just refuses to even try.
Total resistance to the unfamiliar. So Ha realizes he has to keep going alone. And this actually deepens his understanding. Happiness isn't just having the cheese. It's the process. Overcoming fear, taking control, staying put out of fear. That's the real risk.
Maybe he writes that down too.
He does. It is safer to search in the maze than remain in a cheeseless situation. Stagnation is danger.
He's really accumulating wisdom on this journey.
He is. He realizes the fear he built up was way worse than the actual maze. He accepts change is natural and makes his crucial link. Old beliefs do not lead you to new cheese.
You have to change your thinking first.
Right. And then, when you see that changing can lead to something better, the fear subsides. Focus on the potential upside.
So changing beliefs changes actions and reinforces that idea of noticing early.
Definitely. He writes again, noticing small changes early helps you adapt to the bigger changes that are to come. Hindsight is 20/20, right? He sees if he just paid attention earlier.
The whole ordeal would have been different.
Much less painful, probably. He hopes the righties he's leaving might help him if Hem ever decides to follow. He even leaves a kind of summary for him.
And then, does he find it?
He does. Turns a corner, and there it is. Cheese Station Inn, piled high. More cheese than he'd ever seen. All kinds, even new ones he'd never imagined.
And who's already there?
Sniff and Scurry, of course, looking quite plump and happy. They'd obviously been there a while.
So Ha joins the feast.
He does. Puts his running shoes back around his neck, though staying ready, and digs in. And while he's enjoying it, he reflects. What really made him change? Partly fear of starving, sure, but mostly learning to laugh at himself, seeing his own foolishness.
And contrasting his struggle with the mice's simple approach.
Exactly. He crystallizes his lessons. Keep it simple, be flexible, move quickly. Notice small changes. Adapt. Faster delaying is like not adapting at all. The biggest roadblocks are internal. Nothing gets better until you change. And importantly, there's always new cheese out there if you overcome fear and embrace the adventure.
He sees the whole thing as a blessing in disguise then.
Totally. It led him to something better cheese and a better, stronger version of himself. He still wonders about Hem, hopes he finds the path, but knows Hem has to choose it himself. You can't drag someone out of their comfort zone or past their fear.
So Ha leaves his wisdom on the wall at Station N too.
Yep, a summary for anyone else and for himself. And he commits to staying vigilant now. Check the cheese supply daily, keep exploring the maze a bit, never get caught by surprise again. Stay aware of his choices.
Okay, so that's the parable itself. But the source also includes this great discussion part, right? Where people react to the story.
Yeah, a group of former classmates who read it, and their reactions are, well, very relatable.
They start laughing, recognizing themselves.
Immediately, joking about their own cheese being moved. One guy, Carlos, says, yep, that was me. I was Hem when I lost my job. Didn't want to deal with it, just angry.
Someone else mentions a friend in the military.
Right, Frank. Says his friend was pure Hem. His apartment was clearly closing. Everyone else saw it and made plans, but his friend just refused to believe it. Got totally blindsided and struggled badly.
And it applies personally, too. Jessica mentions relationships.
Yeah, she says, my cheese has definitely been moved more than once in her personal life. Unexpected changes happen there, too.
Then there's the family business example. Nathan.
Oh, that's a powerful one. He says his family's business was Hem. They saw market changes coming, refused to adapt, stuck to the old ways, and now, closing stores. He wishes they'd known the story, could have laughed at their resistance, maybe.
It seems like that ability to laugh at yourself, like How did, is a big takeaway for them.
Definitely. Laura, one of the group, asks, who's afraid of change? And almost nobody raises their hand, which makes them all laugh because denial is so common. She points out how important Hall laughing at his fear was.
And Jessica shares a work story about encyclopedias.
Yeah, an old one. Her company resisted putting the encyclopedia on, like a computer disc back in the day. Their cheese was the print version and the huge sales team. Classic arrogance of success. A competitor made the leap and their sales tanked. Now, she says, another big change is coming, and she sees the same resistance.
And Carlos just cuts in with, it's M-A-Z-E time.
Ah, yeah. Time to get moving. Frank echoes the point about laughter being key.
They also talk about Hem, wondering if people like that ever do change.
Corey, who's a doctor, offers a pretty sobering view. Says some people really don't change, they stay Hem, and they often pay a price for it. Health issues, bitterness, blaming others, feeling entitled.
Which leads Nathan to ask that great question about his family business.
Right. What do we need to let go of, and what do we need to move on to? He even wonders if they could have been proactive, moved their own cheese, maybe shifted into real estate, built a new kind of store.
Instead of just reacting, Laura connects that to Ha's idea. Savor the adventure and move with the cheese.
Frank adds a good point, though. Some things, like core values, shouldn't be movable cheese. But for the things that do need to change, he wishes he'd moved sooner in his own life.
Then Michael shares how he actually used this story in his company.
Yeah, this is really practical. He said he realized his job as a leader was to look ahead and essentially paint a picture of new cheese to get people excited about moving towards it.
And he identified the different types in his team. Sniffs, scurries.
Exactly. He saw he had all 4 types and needed to manage them differently. The sniffs. He encouraged them to scout ahead, identify changes, new opportunities. They help shape the vision,
And the scurries.
get them into action, give them the vision, resources, rewards for results they thrive on doing.
Hems were the challenge, obviously.
Huge challenge. The anchors, he calls them. Some changed, but only when they saw a really clear, logical vision showing how the change would benefit them, maybe even make them more secure. Seeing the real danger of not changing helped some become Haws.
But not all of them changed.
No,
Yeah.
he's honest about that. Some just wouldn't budge. And because the business needed to adapt quickly, they had to let those people go. Difficult, but he felt the story helped everyone involved cope better, understand why it was happening.
And the Haws, the ones willing to try.
They were crucial. Initially hesitant, maybe, but open-minded. They learned, adapted, and helped the company succeed. They started expecting change, looking for it, understanding the human side, and importantly, keeping a sense of humor about it. They wanted to work somewhere that helped people navigate change.
Michael had that great line, too, about change being imposed.
Yes, a change imposed is a change opposed. Resistance often comes from feeling powerless, like change is being done to you.
But the story helped bypass that.
Because when everyone knew it, it created a common, non-threatening language. It changed the way we looked at change. People could talk about their fears using the characters, maybe laugh a little, and feel more willing to move.
And the peer pressure shifted. That's brilliant.
That was key, he said. No one wanted to look like him. Everyone started aspiring to be Sniff and Scurry.
Yeah, Nathan immediately gets how that shared language makes it okay to admit maybe we're being a bit hem here.
And Michael stresses it works best when everyone knows the story, because a whole organization only changes when enough individuals do. They even used it with potential partners, suggesting they could be the new cheese better partners and one new business.
The applications just keep expanding. Jessica brings it back to personal life again.
Right, describing a relationship as old cheese with some pretty serious mold. Corey agrees, seeing he needs to let go of a relationship that's gone stale.
But Angela offers a twist on that.
Oh, that's a really insightful point. She asks, maybe the old cheese isn't the person or the relationship, but the old behavior within it. Maybe new cheese is finding a new way to relate to the same person by changing your own actions.
Ah, so the change is internal. Richard likes that idea for his job, too.
Yeah, he realizes just switching jobs might not fix it if he keeps doing the same things. Maybe he needs to change how he does his job.
Becky then has her own aha moment about being him.
Yeah, she laughs, recognizing herself, but also sees the positive side. Change can lead to better things. She shares how her son was upset about a move but ended up finding a passion for skiing and a great life in the new place. The change was ultimately good for him.
So people are planning to share the story.
Definitely. Jessie wants to talk with her family about their old cheese and new cheese. Frank plans to share it with military friends facing transition.
And Michael's final point emphasizes the power of that shared language.
Exactly. He says it gave them a language that was fun to talk about how we were dealing with change. Simple, non-threatening, effective.
Leading Jessica to declare it's time for her to leave that cheese station.
Yeah. Time to find some new cheese. A perfect ending to their discussion.
So, wrapping this up, the core message seems pretty clear, even from such a simple story. Change happens. Constantly. Whether you expect it or not.
And the story just holds up these mirrors, doesn't it? You see the different ways people react, the quick adaptation of the mice versus the denial, fear, the getting stuck in analysis like hem and haw.
And how you react, that choice, really dictates so much. Your stress, your success, your fulfillment.
It boils down to anticipating change. Letting go of that paralyzing fear, maybe finding some humor in it, using your imagination constructively, taking action, recognizing your own internal stuff is often the biggest barrier.
Interesting that there's always new cheese out there if you're willing to venture out and look for it. It's not just about surviving change, it seems, but seeing it as a potential path to something even better.
Absolutely. So maybe the final thought for you listening right now is this. Take a moment. In your own life, your own maze, is there any cheese that's starting to look a bit old, maybe getting a little moldy around the edges?
And if there is, what's one step, just one small movement in a new direction you might take? If you asked yourself that question, what would you do if you weren't afraid?